And so that sounds like, it was kind of a crazy process, especially towards the end. Do you have any favorite memories of working on the project?
Sure. I mean, the memory I just remember we would cook something and then we'd write it down on a piece of paper in the kitchen. And I remember the hippie core kitchen that we cooked in, and we lived in a I would say mixed Mexican Chicano student neighborhood in Tempe, Arizona, about 2 miles from Arizona State, and our house was a punk rock central place. And so we'd cook something, and whenever we cooked about 3-4 times a week, and we cooked a lot because there was 4 of us at the house minimum who lived there, and then there's always people coming through. So, and then we would try to make enough for leftovers for the next day. So we would just cook a lot, and then if we said, "Oh, that's good," we'd write it down. And then later on, we go to the school. We didn't have a computer at our house. We go to school and we type it up. And so I remember that process. I remember the final production days of production when we were frantically with rubber cement and glue and typing and cutting and running back and forth to Kinko's in the computer lab to print, stuff up and fix errors. And Eric eating lots of food, but always on call to write to do our work. And then the other memory I have, which is the printing.
Yeah.
We had an anarchist printer named Fred Woodworth do all our printing for us since about the second or third issue of Hippie Corps. Before that, we stole copies from Kinko's, but when that kind of dried up, we had to start paying for it. And so we found this anarchist self-employed printer in Tucson. His name is Fred Woodworth, and he does a beautiful anarchist magazine called The Match, which you may have seen before.
Okay.
And he does fantastic work. And so he did our printing for us, but the catch was he didn't have a collating machine. So basically what he would do is give us, if we did a 60-page fanzine, he would give us 30 pages printed double-sided, 2,000 copies, and we'd have to collate them ourselves and staple them and shit. Yeah, so we would have collating parties to put them together. We brought food and beer and just encouraged anyone to come down and help us collate for as long as they could stand it. Well, with the cookbook, if I remember right, it was about 100 pages, more than 100 pages, but there's 4 pages, had to be folded in half, and he didn't have a folding machine either. So we had to take, 25, 26 pages plus the cover, and fold them, we set up all 25 pages in a big U shape around the band, big room, in the living room where our 2 bands practice. Got moved all the equipment out, set up these massive tables made out of, doors, and some tables, but mostly made out of, doors and bricks and office furniture and whatnot. Set up the tables, set up 25 stacks and we did 3,000 of the first rounding, so it was a huge run for us. And so stacks of those, and then just people walked around the U, grabbing one piece, getting to the end, folding it, and then we had staplers, stapling it, throw it in a box, drink a beer, go back and do it again. And I think we had probably 50, I don't remember the exact numbers. Eric has a photographic memory. He'll be able to remember, clarify all details there because he's got a photographic memory. But I think we had 15 to 20 people, and we worked for 24 hours to pull all that together. So it was fun and exhausting and loopy at the same, at various points of the evening. Well, I'll always remember collating Hippie Corps, and especially collating Soy Not Oi, because we also knew that was going to be our last project with that. I was moving to Minnesota to go to grad school, and Jack was, so we knew Hippie Corps was done. This was our last project.
Okay.
So it was.
So it was also like
something that. Yeah. So it was a little. It was a little melancholy too, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely remember that.
Okay. Did you guys ever think about updating the zine or writing a new food zine, or was Soy Not Oi?
Yeah, actually we did. Jack is friends with someone when he lived in Boston, he was friends with someone who you should see her blog. She's got this amazing food blog.
Okay.
That's all vegan. And she did some recipes inspired by Soy Not Oi. And Jack can send you the link. And when you see the recipes, because this person is like a real cook, like amazing cook, you'll realize that inspired is her being very generous, and that she liked the cookbook back in the day, but now it's gone so far beyond it. The food looks amazing. But anyway, she did this blog where so sweet, so respectful of Soy Not Oi, and saying, kind of tell a story about how the cookbook was influential, and then make this out of the world recipe, and the photo looks incredible. But Jack had an idea to redo the cook, and because the 20th anniversary was last year of it, in 91. So they had an idea for that, and I was like, sure, okay, I can't contribute much to it, but they had an idea, and we approached AK Press, and they were not. They said they had a bunch of back copies, and maybe we'll talk about it later. So they weren't too keen on it, so the idea got dropped.
Okay.
So it was talked about, but didn't go very far.
Okay. So do you personally still use any of the recipes from Soy Not Oi?
Yeah, sure. Most of the ones I did, that I still use.
Yeah. So most of the ones that you did, and then do you have any?
Yeah, I do a few.
And then do you have any favorites from the book?
Well, it depends on if you mean favorite like foods or favorite recipes, because they're two different things. My favorite recipe of all time is one that I don't even try to make. They're called banana flops.
Yeah.
And this guy Helium, he was a physics major from Quebec, Montreal, I believe. And he he got his physics bachelor's degree, and then bought a motorcycle and just started traveling the world. And he lived with us for about 3 months. I can't remember even how we got a hold of him, but he lived in a chunk of our front room. He hung a sheet, an L-shaped sheet, to give him a little privacy, and then his bed was inside it. But he lived with us for 3 months, and he was such a wonderful human being and a total hippie, and you can see by the recipe. And he would make in the morning for us, and he would always do the dishes, and he would occasionally cook for us, but we would all cook together. But one thing he made was this banana flops, and he was so resistant to recipes. We're like, just write something up, Helium, because he would make this breakfast that we just loved, and we all had such a great time. And of course, it's a Sunday morning, and you're eating breakfast at 1 or 2 in the afternoon, and after a long night, and it was just really fun. And so he wrote up this recipe for banana flops, which is hilarious, which you can't really follow or cook from. But it just brings like kind of makes me think of Helium, and it makes me think of warm summer and spring mornings in Phoenix, laughing and putting that stuff together. So that's my favorite recipe.
Yeah.
As far as my favorite, and then the other favorite recipe that people love and that Jack still makes all the time is his peanut butter chocolate chip cookies.
Yeah.
And that recipe really works, and he would make those all the time. And the little dialogue beforehand was actually a dialogue we used all the time. And we would do anything we could to coerce Jack into making those cookies. Usually it would work. So those I think are the two best recipes in the cookbook. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, and they're awesome ones as well, just for reading value as well as being something to cook from or not.
I think one reason why the cookbook was successful is not only because it filled a niche, of young alternative / punk folks who wanted to learn how to cook better and eat vegan. But I think it also is that it's something you can read. You can read the cookbook, and you can laugh, and you can look at the pictures, and so you can kind of just enjoy. It's like a zine in that way. You don't have to just look at it when you're cooking. And so I'm glad to hear that you like to read it too, because I think that's kind of what we hope for.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I'd say that's one of the other questions that I was going to ask was, one of the things that is awesome about it are the